Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani alongside Cyril Abaku. Good morning, Cyril.
Thank you.
Indeed. Yesterday, the news sort of was all over the place, talking about the trial investigation, not too sure what to call it, of the acting chairman of EFCC, Mr. Magu.
Suspended, yeah.
Suspended acting chairman of the, you see, you got to be careful how you, suspended acting chairman of the EFCC, Magu, and his investigation slash trial. Now, the news was out there yesterday, no doubt everybody would have heard or seen it, that the Salami panel conducting the investigation is submitting piecemeal recommendations, or not so much recommendations, a progress report to the presidency. And according to news reports, these are just to acquaint the president with the degree of progress, and therefore his eyes only. But somehow a lot of Nigerian eyes also got hold of it, and indeed it is being speculated that the Salami panel has recommended a sack for the acting chair. Now, as I said, I don't know, nobody's confirming this, but that is out there. So if that is speculation, we don't know. But one of Magu's lawyers, in fact, his lead counsel, Wahab Shitu, has put out a press statement saying that all the communications going on social media, on the internet, as he put it, quote unquote, lies from the pit of hell. Cyril, that's very much the way we have it. So he wanted to be as emphatic as he could be. So he put out quite a lengthy statement that he just couldn't understand how it could possibly be, how any right-thinking man could think that a panel headed by so eminent a jurist would indeed have sent what it is purported to have sent. Because Barrister Shitu is saying that first, and I think most importantly, the panel hasn't heard from the suspended acting chair.
The accused.
Okay. Straight away. Because they didn't say they arrested him. They said they invited him. But, so, it's not a joking matter. But this is where we're at now. And so to try and help us understand it, we're going to link up with one of the learned brethren of Mr. Wahab Shitu, talking about a lawyer, as soon as we can do that. But first of all, what do you think, Cyril?
No, the challenge is that, I read the 4-page document Mr. Shitu
that was sent out by Mr. Wahab Shitu.
And then he said there was even a particular medium, online medium, that went as far as saying that they had received a copy of the purported interim report. So this is where the issues are.
Okay, and so Wahab Shitu is wondering, how can that be? Because his client, as he said in the release to the press, had not even presented his case yet. And then he listed a number of other legal grievances.
Neither has the lead accuser in this case been also invited to substantiate.
The Attorney General of the Federation.
To substantiate the allegation.
I remember that portion of Wahab's statement.
So it's
he who alleges must prove.
It is right in law to say that if the lawyers will forgive me to borrow the language, it is right in law to say that he who alleges must prove.
That was the point Shitu was making.
Of course, and so he
also alleged that there are some witnesses against Magu that
he didn't have to cross-examine.
He didn't get to cross-examine, but perhaps more importantly, in the legal sense, the panel had received evidence for submissions from it without being sworn to an oath. So there were quite a number of legal things that he queried there, but a guy who no doubt will know much more about it than us is our friend Mr. Malaki Ugumadu, lawyer and civil rights activist. He joins us now, and a former president of CDHR. Yeah. Good morning, Malaki.
Good morning, Yori and
Mr.
Abaku.
Good morning,
sir. Viewers. I hope you can see me clearly.
Well, we will manage. You are in a bit of a silhouette, but your voice is unmistakable. So we can see you. We just don't have this kind of light we'd like in front of you. Nevertheless, it's going to be your voice, really. Tell us, if you will, Malaki, what do you make of this? First of all, it being purported online and indeed from some reputable online mediums that the presidency has been receiving a piecemeal kind of a progress report. And Wahab Shitu's statement yesterday that this could not be. It couldn't possibly be because his client, the suspended acting chairman of the EFCC, has not even given evidence to the panel yet. What do you make of all of this?
Well, let's start from the basis, really, to say that the investigation going on clearly by the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, which is what it is now, as against what it kicked off as, decided to conduct its affairs in camera, that is, in privacy. That is permissible under the Tribunal of Inquiry Act, provided, of course, that it should be clear regarding the terms of that proceeding being in camera. In other words, it could be that it is just an aspect of the proceedings that should be in camera. It could be that it is only a few category of persons that are not allowed to appear in the public. In other words, can be taken in camera and so on and so forth. You know, there's a lot of clarification to be made. And if you fail to do that, it throws into the whole affair certain degree of confusion because the law is clear, talking about the Constitution, about the process or mode of subjecting any person to investigation or to trial. It should be in the open. Having said that, I make the point that I think it is well within the remits, within the purview of, if you like, defense counsel. I am even very pleased with the way you in particular was a bit particular about the use of the accused. This is, so if we're going to speak strictly to what is happening, you keep mentioning Magu, who is under investigation, because as it is, this is a Judicial Commission of Inquiry created through an enactment, an instrument, an establishing instrument, pursuant to the Tribunal of Inquiry Act 2004. Now, whether an inquiry, investigation, or a panel, once the proceedings and outcome of that inquiry or investigation ultimately affects the liberty, the rights of the person under investigation, it will mean, in my humble view, that the sacred principles of fair hearing, guaranteed and secured under Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, particularly Section 36, subsection 3, 4, 6 of that Constitution must be complied with. What does this, or what do these sections of the Constitution say? It says that in the determination of the rights or privileges of any Nigerian, this time around, Magu has the right and privilege of superintending the affairs of EFCC in an acting capacity. So, in the determination of that right or privilege of any such Nigerian, including Ibrahim Magu, such a person must be given fair hearing by a court of law, competent court of law, or a tribunal like this one, in such a manner as to guarantee its independence and impartiality within a reasonable time.
Okay, Malaki, beg your pardon for interrupting. Now, the issue is that the counsel for Mr. Magu, Wahab Shitu, is is saying, and indeed people have seen, writings online that the presidency has been receiving the interim reports, at least one interim report, the one that really got Wahab Shitu going, which purportedly recommended to the president to replace Magu, and that I think one newspaper framed it. Recommends that Magu be sacked. Now, this is where Wahab Shitu got up and he said, "Look, this is not the time to keep silent. This is where we're." Now, is that known to you that a tribunal of this nature would be sending interim reports, even though it needs to be said nobody has confirmed in the presidency, haven't received any such interim report, neither has the tribunal itself confirmed that it has been sending reports. And additionally, sir, sorry, Wahab Shitu mentioned that in the recent past, when he had pointed out a similar story, he had been told by the chairman, Justice Ayo Salami, to disregard such things, that they could never be.
So let's get it very clear, Yori. The mode of operation and the expectation of the appointing authority, in this case, Mr. President, who exercises his right pursuant to the Tribunal of Inquiry Act, could recommend periodic submission of reports. As we understand it, in this particular case, that was requested, but ultimately that the final report shall come in not later than 45 days. I have made an earlier point that it is within the remit, within the powers of Mr. Wahab Shitu, who is counsel to Ibrahim Magu, to raise this alarm. And I think that we should be guided by the concern he has shown for two cardinal reasons. The one is that the tribunal, Tribunal of Inquiry has decided to make these proceedings secret, in other words, in camera. And therefore, the much we get are snippets that come out from the media, but more authentically from the counsel to, at least the counsel to Ibrahim Magu. This time around, he is saying that he has become very, very disturbed, that in a proceeding which he is involved in, there are already reports out there indicative of the fact that the outcome of the proceedings are already before the president, the appointing authority. And that as far as he knows, and to the best of his knowledge, that cannot possibly be, because for so many reasons, that would totally defeat the cause of justice. One, he alleges, as I understand it, that he has not even opened his defense. In short, that there are quite a number of witnesses lined up to be taken from his own side of the proceeding that are yet to testify. You will recall that this whole tribunal started sitting as an investigative administrative panel of inquiry from the 3rd of July 2020. It was not until the the 8th of August 2020, that the information came out again from the grapevine, from Mr. Shitu himself, that his client was given or shown the instrument establishing the tribunal. This is important because a lot that happens in the tribunal, in the course of proceedings, depends on the terms and the express terms contained in the instrument establishing the tribunal, including the mode and the proceedings, and even the periodic submission of reports, as you are saying now.
Which he said. He said the terms of reference of the tribunal were not even given to his client, shown to his client for, I think, 35 days or something like that. For a short.
That is why I say on the 8th of August, 2020. That is well over a month.
Now, at this point, Malaki, I'm very sorry. At this point, simply because time is not on our side, I wanted to sort of throw it all in and ask you, as a learned counsel yourself, what you make of all of this.
Well, if I were the counsel to Magu, I will do exactly what Mr. Shitu is doing, essentially because there isn't anything from the facts already before us now that suggests that there are fair hearing in this proceeding. Recall that this was a man who was literally adopted from the streets with respect to allegations as weighty as the snipers are coming out, and who was kept behind bars, as he were, in detention for as much as 10 days. Recall also that Mr. Shitu has come out to tell the whole world that his client is not yet seized with the petition, with the allegations, with even the proof of evidence, if there is any, and witnesses that have been lined up against him for the purposes of preparing his defense and responding adequately. You will recall, very importantly, and this is where I personally got worried, that some of the witnesses who have testified up to, from the start point of these proceedings, up to the point when they were allowed to come in, because it was understood that they were not even allowed, both Magu and his counsel, were not part of the proceedings until after some time when some people have testified, some witnesses have testified. Now, in any investigation, in any trial, once you don't have the opportunity to cross-examine a witness based on the testimonies that he has given, you cannot be talking of fair hearing.
Okay.
And
I think that's
as we understand it, some of these witnesses, one, were not taken on oath, contrary to Section 5, subsection B of the Tribunal of Inquiry Act, which says that the process of obtaining evidence shall be in the same manner as what obtains in the magistrate courts.
Okay.
Once you are familiar with trials at magistrate court, it means that before a witness will commence testimony, he must be sworn to an oath.
All right, then. One moment, Malaki. I think my colleague Cyril has a question for you.
Okay, so assuming without conceding that indeed the panel has been sending interim reports to the presidency, do you think that some of these loopholes in the procedures, for instance, first,
if loopholes they are,
for instance, speaking on something as serious as Mr. Shitu talking about the fact that some of the witnesses were not sworn on oath. Yes.
We're not sworn on oath, we're not.
Yeah, so will this be sufficient to make a nullity of the process?
Okay.
Well, in my view, all that Mr. Shitu must creatively ensure and do at the moment is to have evidence of what happens. Is to be sure of what he's saying. Because a court of law is not a court of anger or a court of disappointment. A court of law, a tribunal that is determining the rights and privilege of any person, is a court of law. And law is essentially evidence. So Mr. Shitu must have sufficient evidence of what he's alleging because they are grave enough to nullify any such proceedings. There was the need for Nigerians to be patient and to allow this whole process to play out, essentially because the name of the presiding officer of the judge or justice presiding this tribunal is one that invokes fairness, invokes transparency, and invokes integrity as far as judicial practice is concerned in this country. But if these allegations are what they are, then there are fundamental problems in the whole processes. And all I would urge Mr. Shitu and Magu to be searching about is that they have sufficient record to establish that indeed the witnesses were not sworn on oath. 2, they were not cross-examined. And 3, it appears that reports are already going to the appointing authority, even before they have the opportunity, as it were, to respond specifically to the allegations that are brought before
okay.
Mr. Magu.
Because
make no mistake about it.
It's interesting you say courts are not places of anger, that kind of a thing, because there were aspects of Mr. Shitu's submission that he was, as it were, admonishing even the press that he felt his client was getting a raw deal. In fact, I think he even used the word witch hunting somewhere. But in the meantime, Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Greetings to Siri and Malaki.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, good morning. I would be very disappointed if the president allows this Wuru trial to fly and punish Magu unduly. We have all been reading from the media how Magu has been complaining that he has not even seen the petitions written against him, and that he has not even had an opportunity to defend them. What interim report can it be that will be submitted to the president in the absence of even the accused seeing the accusations against him? And he has not even defended any of them. What kind of interim report can that be?
Okay.
Justice Salami, everybody seems to believe that he has a reputation to protect. I'm even surprised that he is not even speaking in the midst of all this.
All right.
Integrity is not static. The way a man behaved yesterday may not be the same way he will behave today, because thinking is a dynamic thing.
Okay.
So it's not. I'm not one of those who says he is Mr. Integrity. He should prove it.
All right. Okay then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Malaki, I want you to address. Well, again, maybe feelings, passions are running a bit high. Mr. George just referred to proceedings as a wuru trial. There's no way this whole procedure can be referred to as a wuru trial, can it?
Well, I didn't go as far as that.
I know you didn't.
I'm also a minister in the Temple of Justice. Justice reigns both in court and in tribunal. And please make no mistake about it. The wordings of Section 36, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria dealing with fair hearing contemplates both the court and tribunal. And this is a tribunal. The initial ambiguity, whether it was an administrative panel of inquiry or an investigative panel has been dispensed with, with the submission of the instrument establishing. It is purely a tribunal of inquiry, and it falls squarely within the contemplation of Section 36. If that is the case, you cannot run away from the issue of fair hearing. And Mr. George is clearly right when he raises that point.
Okay. Okay, I got Taufik, I think, is calling in from, is it Kwara? Oshogbo. Good morning, Mr. Taufik.
Good morning, Mr. Lori.
Yeah.
Mr. Syria and Mr. Malaki.
A pleasure. Good morning.
Please, on this issue, I think it's the right time Nigeria will get things done right. Because as a matter of fact, if somebody that works for you are the principal, I'm talking about Mr. President now, and is being accused, the whole world should see a transparent in it. It should be open. Let's see if really it happened or not. That's why people will believe in what the government is doing. And again, the issue of you having some sitting cabinet that on their own willing, maybe one of them is being withheld or is being targeted by Magu, and they realize that with Magu, they can't succeed, and they want him out. So we should be sincere whatever we are doing. And
Okay.
Mr. Salami, that we all believe, just like even Mr. Malaki said, I think the commission of the judiciary, they should always watch over all, whatever judge or whatever panel. If there's an issue, they should come on board. That is why we believe in our judiciary, and we respect any panel that is constituted by anybody. May God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much for calling in. So I think the point that is, one point that is out there is, I don't think the tribunal would be very much in error if it were to be perceived as leaning over backwards to ensure a fair hearing. Or on the contrary, his counsel, Mr. Wahab Shitu, is making quite damaging accusations, if indeed they are true, such that it's like he's almost saying that there's an intention. Oh, yeah, he's saying all he's saying all the things in the right way. You know, he's being respectful to the authority and the deference to the tribunal. But he's clearly unhappy. He clearly thinks his client is not getting a fair shake, as they say in America. So what is the problem? Why can't the tribunal be seen to be leaning over backwards because of the sensitive nature of this case? And then Mr. Magu, Mr. Shitu says that the guy who initiated all of this, the Attorney General, whose memo initiated all of this, up till now has not been called to come forward. Continue, sir.
So, Mr. Yori, that was you just hit it on the head. And let me be clear about this. I think, in fairness to the tribunal, I think their response to Mr. Shitu when he raised some of these issues about what the media is already writing almost factually about what was happening was that he should ignore the press and their usual business.
That's right.
I guess they meant that with you people, if it doesn't smell, it doesn't sell, and therefore he should concentrate on the business of the proceedings. But the oil cried in the night, and the baby died in the morning. The morning, they say, shows the day. Look, these are very fundamental complaints that are initially raised before the tribunal, dismissed, and now raised publicly to say, come, we are headed for a very unconventional proceedings in which we are hearing that reports are already in without us participating, as it were.
Okay.
To what extent can the tribunal itself gloss over that and carry on as though it's not fundamental enough? That is the issue.
Indeed,
so
it
is for the tribunal now.
Mr. Malaki Ugumadu.
It is for the tribunal.
Indeed. I think that's a fine place to leave this, pending when we get further statements, either from the panel itself or the presidency or from the Minister of, the Minister of Justice. We just need to get, after all, in the case of the University of Lagos, in due course, we got communication from the presidency via the Ministry of Education, right? That, look, this, for the avoidance of all that, and everybody has been commending that particular move in the interest of fairness and, equity. So I want to thank you very much as we await more information on this case, Malaki Ugumadu, for coming on and helping us understand.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right then. So, should we continue or should we go on a break first? Okay, let's do a break and then we come back and we'll see what else we can do, because there are quite a number of other issues I wanted to talk about. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and let's go over to Kaduna now. Well, Kaduna is in the news, one through its governor, and then also in terms of southern Kaduna and its communities. The other one, I don't know how much we'll be able to get into that. There is the whole question of the governor of Kaduna El-Rufai having been invited by the NBA to its annual conference to be a speaker there. And then, you hear all sorts of English when it comes to lawyers. What was that one?
He was disinvited.
Disinvited. But I don't know why I do these laughs. It's a very, very serious matter to the lawyers. And so they felt that there were grievous issues that would warrant the disinviting. In other words, we cancel our invitation. Or we withdraw our invitation.
Withdraw the invitation.
But lawyers don't say it as simply as that.
No, they don't.
They withdraw the invitation, but it's quite quaint. They disinvited him. Yeah. By the way, I've heard the governor say he wasn't given a fair hearing at all. And I've also heard the emir, the former emir of Kano. The former emir of Kano say that Rufai is Rufai. He will say he will call it the way he sees it. Why don't you bring him on and then confront him? Confront him with all these issues, whereupon there will be more light on what the issues are, that kind of a thing. But Rufai himself has said that he wasn't given a fair hearing on all of this at all. That is, whatever the reasons were that caused the NBA to disinvite him. For the rest of us that are not lawyers, for withdrawing the invitation, you get me, for withdrawing the invitation. But it's a very big matter, but for now, we're going to have to make it something of an aside. Unless the lawyer of the two guests that we will be speaking with now remotely, and that's in the person of Tony Ofoyeton, if he has a view on it. Tony Ofoyeton is DG International Institute of Professional Security. Good morning, Tony. Thank you very much for joining us, as always. Okay, Tony is yet to arrive there, but okay, maybe this is a fine point for me to just mention that there might be slight, I wouldn't call them exactly disruptions in our conversation, but the NBC, National Broadcasting Commission has an event. It's a live event, so there you go. That's the event there. We shall, as soon as they get going, as soon as they really get underway, we shall be cutting to them, and by the time we finish with this program, we shall just be handing over to Abuja, the venue of the event. But for now, coming back to our story, and I wanted to talk about the warring southern Kaduna communities. Now, they've signed a peace pact. I don't know, we're also expecting to speak with Group Captain Shehu Sadiq, who's a security consultant. As soon as we have him, we'll be able to hear from him. But some sort of an agreement was signed among all these communities. How did that come about? This followed a lot of work, and because you see, when people sign these things, I imagine there would have been a lot of talks, a lot of grievances aired, and then people finally arrived at following concessions, following compromises, we can work with this situation. And so that is what I imagine, this is how you arrive at something of a piece of code. But what we know is that there has been the signing of a peace pact. Will this lead to the much desired peace? That, I guess, is the issue.
I cannot say, because I, for one, if this peace accord were to bring lasting peace for another 10 years, 20 years, half a century,
sorry, we'll come back to you, because I understand that Captain Shehu Sadiq, security consultant, he's joining us on the phone right now. In fact, he is on the phone right now. Good morning, Captain Sadiq.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Yes. So we're talking about the warring southern Kaduna communities and the peace pact agreement that they have signed. I wanted you to tell us about that. What's your feeling about that? Peace has... tell us what you think of the peace pact. Will it hold?
Thank you very much. The peace pact that has been signed in southern Kaduna before the two warring communities, honest, is the best news that we've had for many years. And it underlines what we have been saying. People have been wondering, despite the federal government's efforts, despite the efforts of the military and the police that are deployed there, including special forces, killings are still going on. What does that tell us? It tells us when you have communities, neighbors, fighting among themselves, in all honesty, almost no amount of security forces that you will deploy that will make any difference unless the same people that are affected are ready to live in peace among themselves. Because whoever you bring, you are bringing the security forces from places they don't belong to that area. The people living in that area, they know the nooks and corners and crannies of that area. So if you deploy security forces in a certain place or on the side, if the people are not ready to live in peace, they can avoid all those police or military checkpoints and go and attack their friends and their neighbors. So honestly, like I'm saying, it is a very good development, and unless the people that are involved, both sides, unless they are truly interested in living in peace among themselves, honest, I cannot see what deployment of military and police can do in that area. So it is a good thing that the matured minds, the calmer minds, because in all honesty, in all these communities, you have warmongers. These warmongers, some of them, they are opinion leaders. People look up to them, to translate to them, to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Now, where you have the warmongers, more of the calmer minds, will continue to have this mayhem.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy to see now that I found moderating voices to bring this solution to fruition.
Now, Captain Sadiq, I wonder, first of all, you said this is the best news that has been heard in a long time regarding the crisis in southern Kaduna. And of course, I know you mean, you didn't have to say it, you mean if it holds. Now, before this pact was signed, one needs to know what led to hostilities previous to this pact being signed, and to what extent have these causes been addressed or removed, so that when you now put your signature to paper, it actually means something.
Okay, I would have loved to say that the remote causes of this conflict has been solved, but the reality, it has not yet been solved. However, since we have people, neighbors killing themselves, the first step is to stop the killing, and I think that is what this signing of the conflict will do. When you talk about the remote causes of this incident, again, both sides have to be very honest. You know, over the years, like we've been hearing, this is a conflict that has been lasting off and on for over 40 years. Sometimes it is religious, sometimes it is politics, sometimes it is ethnic, sometimes economic. All these factors are involved. At one stage, it will be the religious factor that will dominate. At another time, it will be the ethnic factor. Sometimes it will be economic, where they will say farmers versus others. Sometimes, because in all honesty, when you look at the politics in that area, it is probably one of the few areas where politics has taken an ethnic dimension. I give the fact that at the national level, you cannot, in fact, there is no basis for you to say that one of the parties or even the major parties we have, one is based on this religion or the other. But unfortunately, you find that even the politics in that area has taken a hint where there is a party for Muslims and a party for Christians. Now, politicians always look for divisions within the society. And unfortunately, the more belligerent, the more bellicose you are, whether you are a religious leader or a political leader, unfortunately, people seem to align with that. So the people have to know that most of the big people in that area, they don't even live in that area. They only come on weekends, on naming ceremonies or marriages and go. If that place burns, it is the local people who have nowhere to go, who stay to farm, that will actually pay the price. The youth that have been instigated to fight, they will continue to be the cannon fodder of this fight. So now that this contract has been signed, it's just but the first step. The next step is to look at what are those, crucial things that have been leading. Are they religious? Are they ethnic? Are they political? We have to be very honest one with the other and sit down and make sure that those things are resolved.
Okay, so Captain, how do you look at the level of representation in the signing of the peace pact? Political representation, traditional institutions, religious bodies. How representative was this?
The parties that came together,
the parties that came together
to give effect to this peace accord.
Again, in any conflict resolution, the ideal is to get all the shades of opinion, all the subsets in the society to be there. But not only in this one, in almost all over the world, when you are doing such signing, in all honesty, you have those that are ready for peace, and then you have the spoilers. You will all have some group who will think that they shouldn't be part of that agreement. So, like I said, we may never attain the ideal. But the truth is that both government, both media, both civil society organizations, these ones that have identified themselves as peacemakers, they should be encouraged. We should carry the voices of these people high. And here again, honest, there's a big challenge for the media. You should amplify the voice of these people that want peace from all the groups that came. Certainly not all the groups affected have entered into this peace pact. But you can only work with those who want to work. Amplify the voices of these people, give them support so that they are going to drown the voices of war.
Okay. Captain, a moment, because we've also been joined by our friend, Mr. Tony Ofoyeton. Good morning, Tony. We had introduced you earlier. Glad to have you. Tony, that is a sit-down-look posture. it means you are not hearing us yet. So we'll sort that out. But we have the captain with us while we're trying to get Tony's audio straight. Tony, as soon as you can hear us, please speak up. I see that you're ready, but clearly it doesn't look like you're hearing any of this going on. Now, it seems, Captain Sadiq, that we're somehow going to have to be relying on, what is it now, the goodwill, shall we say, sincerity of purpose of all the parties that signed that thing, because having signed it, I agree with you entirely when you said earlier on in the program that it doesn't matter the amount of security forces you bring to bear on the area. The people themselves really are the most effective in either continuing this or, stopping it. So it seems like they will now, the elders in that community will now have to, generally manage this piece. Tony, they're showing me your picture again. Tony, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good day, Mr. Yori. How are you today?
Okay, great. Okay, Captain, could you just be put on hold for a moment? Tony, we've been talking about the peace in the peace accord signed in southern Kaduna, and we've heard so far that is the best thing that has ever happened in that region. Now we're now digging further. The piece of paper is a piece of paper. Signatures on it is signatures on it. But will it change anything in terms of the way people feel? Was the question that we were sort of exploring. This is a crisis that has been on for decades, maybe more than 30, 40 years. Are you optimistic that, a piece of paper with relevant signatures on it can indeed make a difference, because you know the lie of this ground? You're a Nigerian, and you're a security professional. How optimistic are you?
Well, in terms of being optimistic, naturally, I want to always be optimistic on any issue that has to do with the protection of lives and properties. And for the peace accord, I think basically those that are protagonists of.
Okay, it's a bandwidth issue. Tony just froze there. So,
but having said, I think basically.
Okay, we're having problems there. Well, group captain, I beg your pardon. I take the group out because you didn't tell us you're an Air Force man. Captain, I was asking before, who is going to manage this piece? You've said that the people themselves. First of all, everybody's delighted that they've come together, but there's going to have to be sincerity now, and that probably is the big one. That the leaders might say, we as elders know that this is the right thing to do. Do they really, do they have the air of the former, I don't want to call them troublemakers, but agitators? Okay, let's call them agitators.